You're watching a Hanford Communities issue briefing, highlighting important environmental cleanup issues at the U.S. Department of Energy's Hanford site in southeastern Washington, issues affecting citizens of the Pacific Northwest and the nation. The Hanford Communities organization was established in 1994 and is comprised of the communities surrounding the Hanford site, forming one voice to advise the Department of Energy on important transition and cleanup issues.
The Mid-Columbia region of Washington State is a great place to live and visit. We enjoy 4 seasons with mild winters and sunny, warm summers. Because of our location and climate, we aren't threatened by some of the natural hazards that affect other areas of the country, such as tornadoes, blizzards, and hurricanes. But like other communities, the Mid-Columbia has hazards related to the manufacture, use, or storage of hazardous materials. Several facilities on the U.S. Department of Energy's Hanford site store or contain radiological materials and hazardous chemicals. With continuing proper storage and handling, the material is not a health hazard to site workers, visitors, or the public.
You want to get out?
The Department of Energy operates rigorous safety programs to ensure hazardous materials are well managed. Even so, DOE, along with other local counties and the states of Washington and Oregon, have plans in place to address extreme circumstances that could potentially result in the release of hazardous materials on the Hanford site.
We do 2 major drills a year, one with the Hanford site and one with the nuclear power plant folks. This year, both of them went extremely well. Again, it is trying to get the relationships built with those facilities as well as with the local government facilities and responders. That's the most critical component. Once you're familiar and comfortable with their processes and people, if an emergency ever happened, the response would go so much better and smoother.
To ensure protection of Hanford site employees, the public, and the environment, the risks have been identified. Hazards have been mitigated to the extent possible, and response actions have been planned in advance so they can be quickly implemented. What are the hazards at Hanford? Radioactive and chemically hazardous materials are stored or are present in facilities used for producing plutonium in the past, as well as some sites where environmental remediation projects are in progress. These include 300 area, where uranium reactor fuel was fabricated. This area is about 1 mile north of the city of Richland. The 100 area, where nuclear reactors irradiated the fuel. This area is about 27 miles north of Richland and 15 miles southeast of Mattawa in Grant County. The 200 areas, where most of the chemical processing took place and where most of the waste is stored. The 200 areas are 20 miles north of Richland in the central portion of the site. Which hazards can cause an emergency? The first step in the planning process is to identify the hazards. All Hanford facilities and areas are surveyed to identify hazards that could potentially affect people and the environment, both on and off the Hanford site, in the event of an emergency.
We have 3 individuals going to the decon trailer. And
our priorities have changed. We're more in a recovery mode.
Hazardous materials are screened to determine if an event could cause them to be released or if they are toxic enough to endanger workers or the public. Hazardous materials that could be released during an emergency are then thoroughly analyzed.
Your attention please, your attention please. This is a drill message. PFP is in a take cover response. Take cover in the nearest building.
The analysis looks at all types of events that could occur, including facility operational events, natural events such as earthquakes or fires, and security events. For each scenario, computer models are used to predict where the hazardous material might spread and where levels may be a health hazard. The analysis provides the key information needed by Hanford, county, and state emergency response agencies to conduct detailed planning to protect workers and the public during an emergency.
Even though an emergency resulting in the release of hazardous materials is very unlikely, the Department of Energy and our contractors have done extensive planning to make sure that we can recognize when an emergency might be developing and to enable us to take proper and appropriate and prompt response to minimize or even to prevent the effects to our workers and to people in the nearby communities. The key initial step in our planning process is a detailed hazards analysis that provides the information we need for effective response planning for Hanford with our partners at the county and state emergency response agencies.
Which areas might be affected during an emergency? Most of the possible emergency scenarios would only affect small areas on the site. For the most severe scenarios, the hazards analysis identifies the areas on and off the Hanford site where protective actions may be required. These are called emergency planning zones. The emergency planning zones for the Hanford site, indicated on the map, show that even in the most serious emergencies, actions would only be needed within a few miles of the site boundary. What are the emergency plans? Hanford workers are trained to know what they will see or hear if an emergency condition is developing. Prompt recognition of an emergency situation enables a rapid response to prevent these situations from worsening.
A briefing will be conducted at 9:40 a.m.
County and state emergency response agencies also develop plans and procedures to enable them to keep the community informed of an emergency and to quickly warn people close to the site to take action if one of the severe emergencies should occur. The Hanford, county, and state response procedures and emergency response personnel are tested during emergency drills and exercises to ensure the planned actions will work during an emergency. What should the public do in an emergency at Hanford? Hanford emergency response organizations will notify county and state officials of any event at Hanford, even those that don't require the public to take any action. In the unlikely event of an emergency which threatens public safety, county officials will notify the public in the emergency planning zone by activating the emergency alert system to broadcast messages over local radio and television stations. The primary EAS station in the area is KONA 610 AM or 105.3 FM.
We also have a new product out which is called Code Red. It's a reverse 911 system where we can call you and let you know. And we encourage you to go and register for that site on our website or on Franklin County's website so that we can send your cell phone text messages, emails, or anything like that.
It is important for residents within a few miles of the Hanford site to listen to the instructions on the emergency alert system in case they need to take shelter or evacuate. Most areas of the Tri-Cities and the Mid-Columbia region would not need to take any action, even in a severe event. However, staying tuned to the radio or TV or checking the emergency website is very important in an emergency. Throughout an emergency, DOE, county, and state officials will provide information to keep the public informed, using the local radio and television stations and posting information on DOE's webpage at www.hanford.gov. Even though the chances of an emergency occurring at the Hanford site that would affect the public are unlikely, the hazard analysis, planning, and drills to test emergency plans help the Department of Energy, states, and counties protect the people of the region and preserve the quality of life the area is known for.
To find out how you can become more involved in this important regional issue, or to have a Hanford Communities speaker talk to your organization, contact the Hanford Communities at 509-942-7348 or by fax at 509-942-7379 or visit our website at www.ci.richland.wa.us.